next edition of Language Talks. I'm privileged to talk to a senior expert, German and Spanish language translator, teacher, author, and scriptwriter. Let us talk to him about his journey. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Sir, I would like to start by asking you about the book that you have recently completed, the translation of the book Sonali. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. Yes and no. Because this is not a book which I have written, but I have translated from Marathi in English.
Okay.
The book was written by a doctor who was also a hunter. Strange combination. Yeah. But he was from Chalska, and one day one of his patients from the rural area brought a leopard baby to him, which had not even opened its eyes.
Okay.
Now, the doctor hunter fell in love with the leopard baby, and he gave up hunting animals altogether.
Okay.
So that is what started his career as an animal lover.
Okay.
After the leopard baby, there was a tigress, a small tigress baby.
Okay.
After that, there was a lion. And finally, there was the lioness, Sonali. Hence the name of the book, Sonali. Doctor and Dr. Sucheta Padye and her husband, Sudhir Padye. They had a hospital in Borivali where I lived for 25 years from 1975. Now, Sucheta and my wife are very close friends, and since she knew about my writing activity and my writing in English and all, she wanted me to translate the book. So, an innocent person like me who is scared of all the wild animals, but loves dogs. We already have our second since 10 years.
Okay.
So, I accepted the challenge of translating a book on a very strange subject because I am not Jim Corbett or anything. And the translation of Sonali was born, but it fascinated me to no end, as it would fascinate anybody who reads the book. The very idea of a human being falling in love with an animal, or an animal falling in love with a human being. It's mutual.
Yes.
It's a fantastic story. Even though I am the translator, not the author, I would recommend it for anybody, from children to grown-ups, and everybody who loves animals. You would love it. Are you fond of animals?
Not much really.
Not really. I can understand that. Yeah. But we have a dog since 10 years. The second one. The first one, we named him, which became a popular name in the housing colony where I lived. He was called Hari. And a dog called Hari was quite a popular dogality, not personality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. I would like to
Have you seen the book, how it looks? I mean, it's absolutely fantastic pictures of Sucheta as his little girl and her father. I wish I could show it to you, maybe later.
Sure, yes, sir. Sir, you have translated Marathi novels of late Mrs. Girija Keer.
Right.
So please tell us about it.
Well, this is rather an area. I was very fond of pizza time.
Okay.
Uh, she was the chief guest for the publication ceremony of one of my books.
Okay.
And then we became friends. And then she read my major book in English called The Works. And she became a little fan of my books. And I think she was satisfied with the kind of English which I wrote. So she wanted some of her books to be translated into English.
Okay.
The first that she gave me was stuff. It is called Atmabhan. Perhaps
Okay.
you might have read it. A woman's story written by a very sensitive and sensible woman who has dealt with this problem all her life.
Okay.
It's one of Girzatai's best. So Atmabhan was translated first by me, and then she came with another one because she was satisfied apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, this was 26 Varshananta, after 26 years, where the author lady meets a sadhu in the foothills of Himalayas.
Okay.
He is living a typical sadhu's day, and then suddenly, after 26 years, she runs into him when he has become a Maharaja kind of
Oh.
sadhu. Total life story of a sadhu seen from Girzatai's angle.
Okay.
That was
Nice.
fantastic.
Okay.
She wanted me to translate a third book even. That did not happen because she passed away in between. It was about the story she has written about the prisoners from Yeroda jail with whom she stayed for a very long period to understand and experience what it is like to be a prisoner. Fortunately for me, I missed the experience. I miss Girzatai also.
Yes.
I
Sir,
think,
my
I think you also knew her quite well.
no, I have read her books, but I don't
But
never knew her.
not met her. Yeah. Okay.
Sir, my next question is about your book, The Works, which you mentioned just now.
Oh, The Works.
Yes, and I think there is a story to the. I mean, before the book was published, you published another book, right, in Marathi.
Yeah, right.
Yes. So please tell us about it.
That book has a nasty title if you are a lady. It is called Kurup Mulichi Ghost.
Okay.
So what happened? I wanted to publish my very huge novel of 700 pages, not in one language. I wanted to publish the English original as The Works and its Marathi translation into Stalantar Eka Arkhanyasi.
Okay.
But my publisher, a very sensible lady, Dr. Snehal Taure,
Okay.
she said, Mr. Chitale, before doing this big experiment, let's try a small one. You have been telling me all sorts of funny stories. So why don't you put those stories in a book? Let's publish that first as a trial. And if people like it somewhat, then we will consider the big ones.
Okay.
I found that quite sensible. So I was very active, and in the next 15 days, I wrote a 100-page book called Kuru
Okay.
Mulichi Ghost.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is about girls, as the title says. It is about very interesting and special women actually that I met during the course of time. For example, it starts with a very simple story called Pandu Sonarachi Thorli, which
Okay.
means the senior wife of Pandu Sonar. He had two. And he was a neighbor, and I experienced this story actually as a small boy. So this the relationship between this the elder wife of Pandu Sonar and the little boy staying next door. That was me.
Oh, okay.
That story really hit the jackpot. It's one of the best stories I have written.
Okay.
Tells about the woman. She is the Thorli because she doesn't get any children.
Okay.
And then there is a Dhakti. She gets 4 or 5, which I experienced firsthand. And suddenly after that, the Thorli gets a son. This is in short the story. It really hit the jackpot. I mean, people have loved the story.
Oh, okay.
I remember from Vidyasagar Chaudhary ji a letter where she spent a lot of time telling all the details she liked about the story. I never thought I was that good, but she really enjoyed it. And then, of course, there were other things like a 6 foot tall girl whom I actually knew in one of the banks which I used to visit, and the kind of difficulties her height created to get married.
Okay.
So there was
Nice.
Pandu Sonarachi Thorli and getting Shorty. The 6 foot girl became Shorty in my story because her brothers were taller than
Then,
well, something
okay.
on these lines. Something on these
Okay.
lines.
Okay.
That was Kurup Mulichi Ghost.
Okay. And later on, your novel, The Works, was published,
Yes,
right?
that is
Along
right.
with the translation.
Yes, right. Well, I did a lot of things in my life. I was lucky that one telephone call one day transformed my entire career.
Okay.
The call came to tell me to contact the Ruia brothers, Ravi and Shashi Ruia. That was a huge shipping company in those days, Ruia Shipping. And the person calling me said, go to them, meet them. I went to them on a Tuesday, and they said, we need a man in Germany who knows German and has management experience, which I had because I was a manager in Hawkins pressure cookers for 2 years and did some projects for Hawkins and so on and so forth. So I said, okay, where is the real introduction period and all that? They said, no introduction period. You are going to Germany on Sunday. So they interviewed me on Tuesday, and on Sunday I was on a flight to Frankfurt and to Bremen and drove to Emden, that is a North German port, where they had lucked into buying a sponge iron plant worth 500 million German marks in those years. In those years, it was worth 13 to 1400 crore rupees, but they got it because of some problems with sponge iron, which could not be sold in Europe because of excess production. And because oil had become very expensive, natural gas, which was used for making sponge iron, had become twice as expensive. So they got the plant at 5% of the original value. They did not want to run it in Europe because in Europe there was surplus production. So they wanted to bring it to India. And this plant, Lalitaji, was 1.3 kilometers in length, half a kilometer width, had two jetties where a vessel could come and take the material. And this plant had two huge towers, which were actually furnaces, which were 240 feet tall. They were The entire plant was completely dismantled, packed, put on vessels, brought to Hazira near Surat on the Arabian Sea coast, and it was reconstructed there completely. That is why the descriptive Marathi title, Salantar Eka Karkhanesi,
Yes.
and the works. Now, this was initially resisted because the book is expensive, 700 pages, but slowly a lot of people developed liking. Management institutions, Nilkant Rao Kalyani, one of our top industrialists, he had come for the function or publication function. The dean of management faculty of Pune University, he had come for publishing the Marathi translation. And he liked the book so much that he had me lecture his MBA students. That was sweet for me. I mean, all I was doing was narrating the experience. A young man, I wasn't a young man at that time. I was 42, 43. Goes there, learns science checks were millions of DM because the dismantling companies had to be paid. I mean, some very interesting experiences. Now, 16 nationalities were involved, and using the old trick which Tolstoy or Dostoevsky, one of these Russian authors, used, that is, they used to give a list of all the characters in the novel. So out of fun, I also counted. I'm neither Tolstoy nor Dostoevsky, but I counted, and there were 156 characters. You see, the scope of the whole thing was absolutely fantastic. I mean, starting from the shipping company to the manager. The manager was not Prakash Chitale, he was called Ajit Ranade, and so on and so forth. Well, autobiographical in a way, but not quite autobiographical. It has romance and everything, and so on and so forth. Suddenly, the management schools discovered the novel. Some of them used it as supplementary reading material for their MBA students. That was flattering. They asked me to talk about it. And the most flattering letter I got was from Dr. Oberoi, whom I met at one of the meetings of the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. When he read about the book, he bought a number of copies, gave it to his managers and all that. And his company, fairly large company, I won't name the name of the company. They made a major shifting of a plant in Bangalore to another location in India. And I still worship that letter because he wrote in that letter, "Dear Mr. Chitale, I followed all the rules you have set down in the works for the translocation of an industrial factory." There is you can understand my joy that somebody of Dr. Oberoi, who had a master's degree in engineering and also an MBA and a doctorate, and was teaching management in Bombay University, he wrote me this letter. I am sure you can understand why I was so flattered. It was terrific. Well, that was the work and Sthalantar.
Okay, fantastic. Sir, moving on to your German teaching skills. You were decorated.
Yes, yes. I introduced a young man to you yesterday, my grandson Shantanu,
Yes.
and he has been my last student. Lalitaji, I'm
Okay.
80 now, so I have to
Yes.
take a break sometime.
Right.
But I taught in my area in 1970. I celebrated something very special. I celebrated 50 years of my learning of German language because 1960 I passed SSC and came to college and had German as an option.
Yes.
So I said for the next few years, I'm going to teach anybody German free of charge if they come. And then we had a book lovers club or something, and some of the people dared to join. 8 people started. The age group was very interesting. The oldest was 70, roughly my age at that time. The next was 68. Then the 36-year-old daughter of the 70-year-old gentleman, and Dr. Keshavrao Bhole's granddaughter, she was 56. So that was my first free class, and we had a blast. We enjoyed because it was for the purpose of enjoying to learn a language.
Right. I understand. Great.
That was the
And
purpose, and I continued it. And when people, sometimes children from nearby schools came, they had an optional German and all that. I hope this doesn't disturb anybody because I didn't charge anything. I could afford it. That some of the people who wanted to charge but did not get the students, I hope they haven't cursed me. And that is possible. I won't do it anymore. Yeah.
Right. And sir, you were decorated by the Indian Navy for training their submarine specialists in the German language.
Yes.
That
Well,
was
yes.
1982, I think.
Yes, long back. Yes.
Long
See, at
back.
the end of 1981,
Mm-hmm.
Indian Navy made some changes. Their first submarine of the Indian Navy had come from Vladivostok in Russia. The easternmost port of Russia is Vladivostok, and the shipyard was there. Maybe they were not satisfied or they wanted something better and all that. So by 1980s, they decided that the Germans were building better submarines. So they signed a contract for a certain number of submarines with one of the German shipyards in Kiel. Of course, building a submarine, I don't know whether you have any idea, but it is not a few days affair. It is a few years affair. It goes on for about 3 to 4 years. And when a client orders a submarine, the purchaser also has to take certain responsibility and delegate his people and specialists to monitor, guide, and learn at the same time things about this new submarine. So the Indian Navy selected something like 32 or 35 officers and then checked out for the possibility. Of course, Western Naval Command has a fairly big setup in Mumbai. So they decided to take advantage of that setup, and they delegated all these people from different commands of the Navy to Mumbai. And Goethe Institute Mumbai, where I was teaching, was selected as the institute to teach German to the Indian Navy boys. I was flattered because this was a very special class. And this was a special class. This was the best class, Lalitaji, because these were very disciplined officers.
Okay.
led by one of the senior officers. I think he was a captain. I can name the name, it is so long back, Thukral, who subsequently became an admiral. Thukral and his 31 or 32 boys came, and I was given the class because I had done a lot of technical translation till then and much more later. So they said, Mr. Chitale, this is your responsibility. And I started teaching. Then they somehow got hold of the idea that I was doing a lot of technical translation and I knew a lot of technical vocabulary. So they came to me, Mr. Chitale, you must teach us a little bit of technical German. This was a googly for me, but that was the correct kind of googly. So I said, before I teach you technical German, I must understand the important disciplines for submarine. So if you can do that for me, I would be happy. So he says there are only 5: sonar, radar, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and telecommunication. I gave to them an assignment, what sounded like a simple assignment.
Okay.
I said, please give me 200 most important words for sonar, radar, and so on and so on.
Okay.
That it was simple.
Yes.
I said, you are 35 boys, divide yourself in 5 groups, each one consisting of 7, and collect your vocabulary. So they started rapidly, and then they realized as they checked with each other, as each one was working, that the common words that the group had were only so many. So finding the most common 200 words for each technology took them 15 days.
Okay.
You as a language teacher yourself and a language connoisseur, you know that frequency analysis is extremely important in language teaching.
Right.
So I never told them what I was doing, but they learned it on their own. They gave those words. I translated those words for them into German, and we occasionally tried a little bit of technical jargon.
Okay.
They were so happy. This was the only class I have taught where the passing percentage was 100 because they were very smart about it.
Yes.
Smarter, the better students coach the not so good students at home. I mean, where they were living, in their living. All of them passed. All of them did. And they were very happy with the course. They also let me enjoy their hospitality, invited me on different vessels in the Bombay harbor. I never enjoyed teaching a class because every alternate weekend you are invited on a vessel and hospitality with the captain in attendance and all. That was unbelievable. I really enjoyed it. So finally, they wanted to celebrate. So the Western Naval Command Chief Training, somebody came. They tossed me in the air and we celebrated typical Navy style.
Okay.
And they were so happy that they asked the Western Naval Command to appoint me to work for the Indian Navy, which of course I refused because it would have restricted me.
Yes.
So, but somehow the boys did not forget that whatever I little gave to them was very useful to them. They asked the Navy to decorate me. And when you visit me, I will show you the huge thing that is passed on when you are decorated. People often wonder what a translator has to do with, or what a language teacher has to do with being decorated by the Indian Navy. But that was my best class. And I still remember, uh, for obvious reasons, I did not continue with the contacts because they have certain rules about secrecy and so on and so forth.
Right. Right.
But one funny thing happened in spite of all this. They went to Kiel. Somebody, one of the boys, got a tropical disease which remained dormant for 4 months, but it came out after reaching Kiel and spending 4 months. So he went to a hospital and he spoke a little bit of German with his doctor. So the doctor complimented him and asked him where you learned your German. So he said in Mumbai. So she suddenly asked him, did you learn it from Mr. Chitale? He was so taken aback that the doctor knew Mr. Chitale. Now the funny part of the story was, my wife worked in the Cancer Research Institute when I was a student in Heidelberg. And this lady doctor who was working in Kiel was her colleague in the Cancer Research Institute, and they were good friends. And she knew, of course, only my name, and she mentioned it to Navy. He broke the naval rules and wrote me a letter from Kiel telling me what had happened. But well, we did not disclose any naval secrets to anybody.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was Navy boy.
Fantastic.
Yes, it was quite an experience.
Great. And sir, I forgot to ask about your book Mulka Vegra. So it depicts the story of a young Maharashtrian who goes to, I think, Germany.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I would not even claim any credit for Mulka Vegra, but I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Mulka Vegra basically is another word for a stranger. Somebody who has been separated from his muluk, the stranger. So when I went to Germany, I was a Mulka Vegra. So I liked the concept of the word Mulka Vegra. Then what happened? Somewhere around that period before I wrote the novel, about 2-3 years ago, some friend of mine, a bank manager, called me and he said, I'm doing some very touchy and secret things and they have to do something with a Swiss bank.
Oh, okay.
Somebody has a lot of money in a Swiss bank and the Swiss bank may give this money to a trust if you help us with all this correspondence and all that. So I translated the correspondence. This was the beginning. The money involved was quite substantial. Then, after 2-3 years, one of my neighbors in Borivali came to me and he said, Mr. Chitale, you're the German language expert. So why don't you translate the document for me? This was the last will and testament of a man. To my shock, I suddenly realized the will and testament was talking about the same man who had those millions in the Swiss bank. So I translated. Actually, this gentleman went to Germany in 1932, just even before, 1 year before Hitler came to power. He spent his time there, experienced the rise and fall of the Third Reich, has been named by one of the authors, American authors. And in 1948, he was allowed to marry a German girl. Before that, racial laws would not allow these kind of intermarriages. So although he was there from 1932, the marriage took place in 48. Unfortunately, they had no issues. He spent all his time in Berlin, actually. But when I decided to write the book, Berlin, I have been a few times, but I'm not that great on Berlin. It did not appeal to me. So if you look at the book cover of Mulka Vegra, you will find the old Rathaus, the municipal building of Emden, once again.
Okay.
Once, as it has been restored after the Second World War, and in the background, there is a picture of that Rathaus being burnt in the numerous bombings which Emden suffered. So it told, I told the whole story with reference to Emden. And this man, the Girzabai, loved this novel. When it was published, she was the chief guest. And she liked the end so much that she broke one very important rule, which you should not never disclose how the book ends to the spectator. Or rather the potential buyers. But Girzabai broke it. This man who came from Konkan, that is the area I also come from, so he loved it so much. He wanted his ashes to be distributed on the coastal area where he came from.
Okay.
So that is what she disclosed, but doesn't matter.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's an old story. Now, a lot of people like this book even more than the works because somehow it touched them here. Works is a great story, and this is a touching story.
Touching story. Yes.
One admirer had a peculiar idea. I'm still in shock when I hear. He bought 80 copies of the book, and only one single person. And he distributed it during the wedding ceremony of his son as return gift. I have never felt so elated in my life as when I well, I have no complaint.
Yes.
I'm flattered.
Great. Nice. So it was nice talking to you.
Thank you. I hope I laughed too much. And this fault has been pointed out to me already 64 years ago. Chitale, you talk and laugh at the same time. That is not a very good thing. But I'm still learning.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Lalita ji. It has been a pleasure. I hope that your group, that is our group, because I'm also a member,
Yes,
would enjoy whatever I could say. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah, same to you. Yeah, bye.